Hey everybody, Ed from Paranormal Inc. Ohio. We are back at it again with another podcast episode. Tonight's podcast episode is going to be a little different. It's going to be a true crime podcast episode. And I'm into true crime. I really like true crime as much as I like the paranormal. I did a true crime episode once before with Annalise Michelle. It had paranormal inklings into it, and you guys seem to like it. So I decided to do another one. And true crime it's just something that me and my wife are really into. We watch it, and so I decided to try the true crime podcast before. It worked out really well, so I decided to do it again. And my wife had told me about this case that had happened in Springfield, Ohio, and I had no idea this happened. And I grew up in a small town not too far from Springfield. I mean, I went to school in Springfield, Ohio, and I never even knew this happened. I didn't know the people. I didn't know anything. And when she told me about it, I decided to go digging into it, and I looked it up, and I looked through the case. I read the case files, which I'm going to, tell you guys everything. So with that being said, your discretion is really advised. You're going to hear some pretty bad things, some pretty gruesome things that has happened to some people. A couple of them were pretty young, but it is a tragic case. And when I read it, I literally, it really angered me. Made me sick to my stomach, everything. So you're listening to this and you have your kids with you, I would recommend that they don't listen to this episode. It's pretty bad. So with that being said, I am going to just jump right into it. We're going to talk about William Kessler. He is a known serial killer from Springfield, Ohio. He has just done bad things his entire life. Let me give you a little backstory on him. Read through some of his crimes that he did, and we're going to pay attention to 3 particular murders that he and some of his... I think you guys just heard my dogs. I have 2 big pits, and they like to talk. They're like the member of our family, so they're going to talk. You're going to hear them. Yep, that's them. And some of his accomplices that were, in with this murder and a couple other murders. And I'll tell you the outcome of what happened and everything like that. So we're just going to jump right into it. We're going to talk about William Kessler first, okay? And then we're going to jump into his crimes. This episode really is about Kessler and his cases, and this one big case that happened in Springfield. And there's a lot of controversy with this case. The family of the victims, they get kind of upset when it's brought up, which I completely understand. And once you guys hear what happened, I would be understandably upset too. But I feel that, like a lot of other podcasters or YouTubers or journalists, authors, book writers, what have you, their story needs to be told. We can't just forget what happened to these people, because once we forget, it's done. It's over. It's like they never existed, and that's not fair to them. So, William Kessler Lilly was born on March 22nd, 1962, in Springfield, Ohio. He had 1 younger brother, and according to Children's Services, young William had hostility towards all women he came in contact with. When he was 9, his parents divorced, and he and his brother went to live with his father and stepmother, who they later claimed physically and mentally abused him. Lilly committed his first crime. When I say Lilly, I mean Kessler. That's his name. Lilly is his real last name. Lilly committed his first crime on March 20th, 1980, when he was arrested on charges of animal cruelty. The next year, he moved to Jacksonville, Florida, where he was legally adopted by a man named Al Sapp, which caused Lilly to change his last name to Sapp. In 1988, Sapp married a woman named Karen. And together, they moved back to Ohio, settling in Sapp's hometown of Springfield and having 3 children, born in 1988, 1994, and 1995. So here's the crazy thing. One of these big crimes happened in 92, 93. So it was right before one of his children were born. In 1991, Sapp set fire to a log cabin close in proximity to his father's home. On August 23, 1992, the bodies of 12-year-old Free Maro and 11-year-old Martha Leech were discovered near a pond behind Penn Street. The girls were described as best friends, and they were determined to have been killed the previous day when the two were returning to Martha's home from a bakery. On July 8, 1995, a couple found the body of 30-year-old Belinda Faye Anderson under their garage in Springfield. Anderson was found to have been killed back in September of 1993 after she went missing on her way to her parents' house. So, let's just keep going. On February 27, 1996, Sapp was arrested on charges of attempting to kill Una Timmons, who on February 5th was beaten and stabbed by Sapp after he offered her a ride and smoked crack with her. On September 9th, he went on trial, pleading not guilty by reason of insanity. During the trial, the investigators from Jacksonville, Florida, visited Sapp in his jail cell. At the time, they were investigating his possible involvement in an unsolved case that occurred while he was living there in Florida. Sapp gave information but blamed crimes on a man named Robert Lancaster. Now remember Robert Lancaster, because this is what's going to come up later, who he claimed killed 56-year-old Shirley Ogden on West Main Street in April 1981. At the same time, a sample of Sapp's DNA was seized and collected by the FBI, who were able to confirm his role in the murders of Free Maro and Martha Leech. Detectives sought to interview Sapp after the tests were complete. In the interview, Sapp confessed to the murders as well as to the murder of Anderson. By the time Sapp was connected to the crimes, 2 men, David, I'm going to butcher this name, but let me tell you, when it has a lot of letters in it, it has a lot of letters in it. And this guy's a total piece of garbage anyway, so I don't care if I ruin his name or not. David Marskowski. He was born June 3rd, 1959. And his stepson, John Balser, born December 21st, 1969. Yeah. He were already serving time for their role in the murders of Maro and Leech. Despite this, investigators proved that both men were involved as accomplices, while Sapp was the ringleader, and their convictions were upheld. Another man, Jamie Turner, born November 11th, 1971, was also convicted for his role in Maro and Leech's murders, and he was sentenced to life. On November 13th, 1998, on October 13th, 1999, Sapp was convicted of the murders of Free Maro and Martha Leech and Belinda Anderson. Days later, he was sentenced to death. Sapp signed over parental rights of his children to his wife, though she later relinquished custody as well. They became state wards until 2021, when they were placed with a local family. Now that's kind of like a summary of Sapp and his crimes. Now, here's where all the bad crap's gonna happen. So just prepare yourself. Viewer discretion is advised. If your kids are still with you, take them away. Don't let them hear this part. All right, here we go. On August 22nd, 1992, William K. Sapp raped and murdered Free Maro, age 12, and Martha Leech, age 11. That's right, 12 and 11 years old. 17 days later, Sapp raped and murdered Belinda Anderson, an adult woman. About 3 months after, he murdered Anderson. Sapp raped and attempted to murder another adult woman, Hazel Pearson. Sapp was sentenced to death for the murders of Free Martha and Anderson. And here I'm going to tell you about the murders of Free Maro and Martha Leech. I want to say before I talk about this that I cannot express how sorry I am to the families of these two little girls, and how sorry that these two little girls had to go through this torment of these evil men. The suspects, they were proven guilty, and they're just garbage, evil incarnate. Like I said, I have read some true crime. I've watched true crime. I worked in a prison. You know, I've seen and heard a lot of bad things, but this is one of the top. So Free Maro and Martha Leech lived around the corner from each other in Springfield and became friends in the summer of 1992. On the afternoon of August 22nd, 1992, the girls went to Schuler's Bakery together. And this kind of ruined Schuler's for me as well. Because, like I said, I lived not too far from Springfield growing up, and I went to school in Springfield, and Schuler's donuts were like the best things ever made. I know everybody's got their own donut spots. Like, oh man, donuts good. Schuler's was just amazing. And about the same time, two friends of Sapp, David Marskwiski and David's stepson, John Balser, were seen near the bakery. Martha entered the bakery with an unidentified male. She purchased some cookies and donuts. The unidentified man paid for the order, and the two of them left the bakery. Ralph DePriest, David Marskwiski's nephew, witnessed the murders of Free and Martha when he was 14. On August 22nd, 1992, DePriest was at the Marskwiski residence with Wanda Marskwiski, who is David Marskwiski's wife, and Balser's mother. Balser entered the house and said, "Mom, I'm in some trouble." DePriest and Wanda went outside and got into a van with David Marskwiski and Christopher Bibbs. They drove to an area near a pond, which lay behind the bakery. And by the way, that pond is gone. They built this beautiful memorial shrine to these girls there that sits where the pond used to sit. When they arrived, DePriest saw Sapp kneeling beside two girls who were laying unconscious on the ground. Again, if you have your children with you, now is the time to get them out of there, because this is where it's going to get insane, and it's going to get really bad. The priest described the girls as being all messed up. The priest watched as Sapp, David Marskwiski, Jamie Turner, and Balser rubbed the girls' genitals. Sapp made the priest participate. After they had done this for a while, Wanda told them to kill the girls. Balser and David hit the girls with rocks. The priest saw Sapp pick up a rock and lift it way over his head. The priest turned away before Sapp brought the rock down. Sapp threatened to kill the priest if he had ever told anyone what he had seen. Sapp, Balser, David Marskwiski, and Turner then moved the bodies a short distance from the pond to a nearby hill. The priest helped them cover the bodies with skids. They took pallets, 2 pallets, sticks, and whatever bullshit they could find, and covered these little girls that they just brutally raped and murdered, and then left them there. Not given any types of crap about these 2 little girls or their families. These horrible pieces of garbage, just threw them away like a used sock. Anyways, the next day, the bodies of Free and Martha were found in the vicinity of a pond behind Penn Street in Springfield, near Schuler's Bakery. Wooden pallets, branches, and leaves covered the bodies. Free had a rock on her head. In the part of a large storm sewer, known locally as the Lion's Cage, police found a bicycle, a brick, and 2 pairs of shorts. Free Maro's mother identified the pair of shorts as a pair Free had been wearing when last seen. That particular part, that particular part right there really got to me, because I have a daughter. I have two daughters. I have a 21-year-old daughter, and I have a 15-year-old daughter. And my 15-year-old daughter wears nothing but basketball shorts. Like, it's crazy. Knowing that I have daughters, and knowing that there's just absolute pieces of garbage out there that would just, for no reason, do this to them, it terrifies me. Like, my oldest daughter is 21 years old, and when she goes to work or goes to get gas or just goes somewhere, I'm terrified. Terrified. Same way with my wife, my mother-in-law. There's just really evil people out there, and now knowing that these pieces of garbage were here in Springfield, it really put in perspective that this stuff can happen anywhere. Another witness identified the bicycle as the one she had seen in the possession of two girls outside Schuler's Bakery on August 22nd, 1992. The shorts were examined by Timothy Shepard, a police forensic criminalist. According to Shepard, the shorts had not been torn from Free's body, rather someone had disassembled them, like cut them at the seams with a sharp instrument. Autopsy revealed that both Free and Martha had died of blunt head trauma. Free had been struck in the head at least 6 times, Martha 3 times. The skulls of both girls had been fractured by blows having an impact equivalent that of a free fall from a second-story window onto concrete. Both girls also had bruises on their legs and torsos. Sperm was found on swabs taken from each of the girls' genitals. David and Wanda Marswisky, John Balser, Jamie Turner, and Christopher Bibbs were all convicted of crimes arising from the murders of Free and Martha. However, Sapp's involvement did not come to light until 1996. September of that year, sheriff detectives from Jacksonville, Florida, came to Springfield to question Sapp about an unrelated matter. Sapp made incriminating admissions about an assault on Hazel Pearson, whose pants had been yet cut off in the same distinctive manner as Free's shorts. Sapp then became a suspect in the Maro Leech murders. A blood sample obtained from Sapp was sent to the Federal Bureau of Investigation for DNA comparison with the vaginal swabs taken from Free and Martha. The FBI laboratory determined that the DNA LOCI obtained from the semen on both swabs matched the DNA LOCI obtained from a sample of Sapp's blood. An FBI expert concluded that to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, Sapp was the source of the semen found on both Free and Martha. On April 2nd, 1997, Sapp was brought to Springfield's police headquarters for questioning. Over the course of 2 days, Sapp confessed at length to the crimes charged in his case. He gave the following account of the Maro Leech murders. Again, listeners' discretion is advised. It is going to get graphic. And this comes from the mouth of Sapp himself. On August 22nd, 1992, Sapp was with David Marswisky, Balser, Turner, and Bibbs. The 5 of them ended up at a pond located behind a business on Penn Street, not far from Schuler's Bakery. Sapp claimed that the girls were already at the pond when he and his friends arrived. According to Sapp, Free called Turner ugly, and Balser called him a derogatory word for mentally handicapped. Then Sapp punched Free in the head. So, an 11-year-old and a 12-year-old girl said some mean things to you, a grown man, with your grown friends, and you got so angry that you attacked these girls. Unbelievable. Sapp cut Free's shorts off her body with a buck knife, an act he later referred to as leaving his name. He next made Free roll over onto her stomach and forced Martha to lie on top of her. And he repeatedly brutally raped them, one after another. After the rape, Sapp and others took turns hitting Free in the head with rocks. After each perpetrator had taken a turn, Sapp heard Free gurgle. Sapp lifted a large rock over his head, and as Sapp described it, he threw it down, trying to send it to the other side, meaning her onto the other side of the world. He later explained to police that he struck the second blow specifically because she wasn't dead yet. Sapp told police he used a boulder to strike the second blow because if it's going to be done, it's going to be done right, is what he said. Next, Sapp hit Martha in the head with a rock. After that, he raped Free again after she had passed away, after he brutally beat her to death. Sapp and the others then moved the girls and covered them with leaves, branches, and discarded pallets. They took the clothing and the bicycles belonging to Free and Martha and placed them in the storm sewer. After the interrogation, Sapp was held in Clark County Jail on April 17, 1997. A deputy sheriff overheard Sapp tell another inmate, "I'm gonna make national effing news. I've killed several people, but mostly it's about the 2 little whores I killed. But God forgives me, because I've been saved." On June 29, 1998, Sapp stated in the presence of 2 deputy sheriffs that he had killed a couple of people, or that he had killed people before. During June and July of 1998, Sapp had several conversations with another Clark County jail inmate, Johnny Saxer. According to Saxer, Sapp said that whenever he got sick for the taste of blood, he always went out and took care of his problems. Sapp told Saxer different versions of the Maro Leech murders. In one version, Sapp claimed that he went with the mother-in-law and I'm choking because I'm reading this stuff again. I've read this so many times before to prepare myself for this, and I've wrote my notes. It just gets to me. Sapp claimed that he went with the mother of one of the girls, but became angry because the mother started seeing another man. Sapp told Saxer that he tried to mess around with the other little girl, and she didn't want him messing around. So she smacked him, and then this other little girl jumped on his back, and then Turner pulled her off his back and throwed her down on the ground and took his foot and stuck it on the side of her head. In another conversation, Sapp told Saxer that he had tried to have sex with one of the girls. When he was rebuffed, he took and started beating this girl. And that's when they started taking bricks and things and caving their heads in. The murder of Belinda Anderson. We're now going to talk about Belinda. This is after the murder of Free and Martha. And this one's just as bad. I mean, it's not a child, it's an adult, but it's still just as bad. On September 8, 1993, Belinda Anderson of Bell Fountain was staying with her sister Deborah in Springfield. At 5:20 p.m. on September 8th, Deborah left the house to visit her parents. When she returned at 6 p.m., she found that Belinda had gone out, leaving a note. Deborah never saw her sister again. Nearly 2 years later, on July 8, 1995, Belinda Anderson's body was found buried under the dirt floor of a garage in Springfield. At the time Anderson's disappearance in 1993, the house and garage had been vacant for several years. Anderson's body had been placed in a plastic bag and buried in a shallow grave where her feet were still sticking out. They didn't even give enough shit to bury the entire body. That's how much he doesn't care about people. Buried her in a shallow grave, and her feet were sticking out. And left it that way for all these years. Shoes and socks, but no pants. An autopsy showed that Anderson had died of multiple trauma to her head and neck. She had 3 chop wounds and a bruise on her face, and some of her facial bones were fractured. A blow to the back of Anderson's head had lacerated her scalp and abraded the outer layer of the skull underneath. Her larynx was broken. Each of these injuries had been inflicted before death because of the body's decomposition. It was not possible to test for the presence of sperm or semen. In his confession to the Springfield police, Sapp said that he had met Belinda Anderson for the first time on the day he killed her. According to Sapp, Anderson agreed to have sex with him for $40 and led him to a garage, which they entered through a hole in the back. Sapp claimed that he had paid Anderson in advance and that she began to perform fellatio on him. But then she stopped, saying that she had changed her mind and wasn't doing the rest. When Sapp demanded a refund, Anderson started to leave. He reached down to grab her, and she hit him. Sapp grabbed Anderson by the throat. She resisted. He threw her against the wall. He picked up a length of pipe and hit Anderson in the head. She dropped, and she started to get up, threatening to call the police. Sapp felt like he was on fire inside, he said. He picked up a piece of metal and hit Anderson several times because she wouldn't shut up. Sapp described to police how Anderson gargled and gurgled. He remarked, "How many times you gotta hit a person before they stop trying to get up?" Sapp claimed he never had sex with Anderson except for the alleged consensual fellatio. But he also told police that he had been determined to get what he wanted and to get what he paid for, or to get a refund. If in any event, he cut Anderson's pants off with a hunting knife. Reasoning, "I done bought it, so I'ma get it." That's exactly what he said. "I done bought it, so I'ma get it." Again, this guy is not the smartest person in the world. After beating Anderson and cutting her pants off, Sapp fled. A few days later, he returned, put a plastic bag over Anderson's head and another over her feet, and buried her in the shallow grave in the garage. Sapp later told Johnny Saxer about this crime. He told Saxer that he just got a taste for blood and he just couldn't run out. And every time he ran into a woman, he had to do this. So he started beating them. So as he started beating her and took her into the garage to do what he had to do with her, and then he stuck her underneath the floor, Sapp told Saxer that he raped her and that he used a jar of Vaseline on her. Yeah. It keeps going. So now we're going to talk about the attempted murder of Hazel Pearson. I don't know if it's a blessing because of what he did to this woman. She survived this attack, and her life was never the same afterwards. On December 7th, 1993, Hazel Pearson and her boyfriend Butch Morgan encountered a former girlfriend of Morgan's in a Springfield bar. Pearson became upset and left. The next morning, employees at the packaging company in Springfield saw Pearson sitting in a nearby parking lot. When they realized that she was hurt, they went to her aid. She was nude from the waist down. One of the employees asked her if she had been raped, and she nodded her head yes. Paramedics were summoned to take Pearson to the hospital. As they lifted her into the ambulance, numerous cuts on her body opened up, and she screamed in pain. Pearson's throat had been cut from ear to ear. She had a deep stab wound in her upper abdomen. She had an open wound at the base of her nose, multiple cheekbone and jaw fractures, and a fracture of the orbital floor, the bone at the base of the eye. Underneath her lacerated scalp, she had a fractured skull and serious brain injuries. Her face was swollen and badly bruised. Her whole body was black and blue, and stones were embedded in her flesh. When Pearson woke up in the hospital, she noticed that her watch was missing. She recalled crawling towards some railroad tracks, but couldn't remember anything else that had happened after she left the bar. Police found a pair of jeans in the parking lot near the spot where Pearson had been found. Springfield Police criminalist Timothy Shepard examined the jeans and concluded that they had been, you guessed it, cut off in the same manner as Free and Maro shorts. Police also found bloodstains underneath a nearby loading dock. In 1994, the custodian of a church in Springfield found a knife stuck in the church roof. On September 26, 1996, at the Clark County Jail, Sapp mentioned the Hazel Pearson case to detectives from Jacksonville, Florida, claiming that he had acted through another personality. Here it is, Robert Lancaster. Sapp mentioned that he had cut Pearson's throat, that he had taken her watch, and that he had thrown the knife onto the church roof as Lancaster. In his subsequent confession, the Springfield police, Sapp admitted that he had raped Pearson and had tried to kill her. Sapp told detectives that on the day he met Pearson, he was pretty effed up from drinking and pill popping. He saw Pearson crying on the street corner and approached her. Pearson complained to Sapp that her boyfriend was in the bar with another woman. Pearson had walked out of the bar after some words and a little push contest had happened. Sapp and Pearson walked together until they reached some railroad tracks. There, according to Sapp, they kissed and messed around a little bit. But Pearson said, "Why is it that all men got to have that stubble shit? Just like Butch." And according to Sapp, he just slapped her. Sapp became furious. He was thinking that, and this is what he said, the bitch needed to die. All bitches need to die. It was time for that kind of shit to stop, he said. It ain't gonna happen no more to me. So Sapp assaulted Pearson, beat her with a piece of steel cable, kicked her repeatedly, and stabbed her in the stomach. And all the other injuries that I just told you guys. At some point, Sapp removed Pearson's pants and had intercourse with her without ejaculating. Sapp indicated to police that the sex was consensual. Consistent with that claim, Sapp initially told police that he had pulled Pearson's jeans off. However, he then claimed to have torn them off, and finally he admitted that he spent 7 to 12 minutes cutting Pearson's jeans off. Once Pearson stopped moving, Sapp hid her under a nearby loading dock and ran away. As he fled, he threw his knife onto the church roof and hid the piece of cable in a storm drain. Police later recovered the piece of steel cable identified by Sapp from the storm drain. While confessing to this crime, Sapp mentioned that he owned a surgical scalpel that had belonged to his mother. It was the same one that cut her pants off. Sapp later told Johnny Saxer that he jumped on a woman at a location near Selma Road because she had a pink outfit on, and he didn't like her outfit, and he started beating her with a crowbar. And he thought that he had killed her, but somebody had hollered at him, and he took a running dash away, and he thought the girl was dead when he left her there. So, she was still alive. Now we're going to talk about the trial. The indictments and everything they tried to get on him. And here we go. The grand jury returned a 27-count indictment against Sapp. The indictment included 3 counts of aggravated murder with prior calculation and design, 3 counts of aggravated murder during a rape pursuit to related crimes, and 3 counts of aggravated murder during a kidnapping pursuit to related crimes. Each aggravated murder count carried the following death specifications. The aggravated murder was part of a course of conduct involving the purposeful killing or attempt to kill 2 or more persons in pursuit of related crimes. Counts 1 through 6 as originally charged also carried specifications on the related crimes, was committed to avoid apprehension, but these specifications were dismissed on the state's motion before the trial. The two counts charged Sapp with the attempted aggravated murder of Hazel Pearson. Sapp was also charged with 4 counts of rape, 4 counts of kidnapping, 3 counts of evidence tampering to pursuant of related crimes, and 3 counts of abusing a corpse pursuit of a related crime. 2 arson counts was also added. Sapp was convicted of all counts and specifications, and a mitigation hearing was held to sentence him on the Maro, Leech, and Anderson aggravated murders. Before submitting the case to the jury in the penalty phase, the trial judge merged the aggravated murder counts into a single count for each victim. The jury recommended death on each aggravated murder count. The trial judge sentenced Sapp to death on each count. The Court of Appeals affirmed Sapp's convictions and death sentences. The cause is now before us on an appeal as right pursuit of related crimes. In this appeal, Sapp raises 16 propositions of law. After full consideration, we conclude that Sapp's claims do not require reversal of his convictions or sentences. We also independently reviewed Sapp's death sentence as required for appropriateness and proportionality for the reasons that follow. We affirm Sapp's convictions and death sentences. So he tried to get out of it, and he didn't. So it just goes on and on. He was trying anything and everything to get out of what was coming to him. And he deserved every bit of it. I mean, and so did the other ones. The other ones, they got their sentences. They all got life with no possibility of parole. And he got death. And he was supposed to be executed in 1999. But it was determined that he was too big for lethal injection. That he might have died a cruel and unusual death because he was too big, and that the medicine that they put inside of him to kill him might have taken it slower along. Well, I think they should have got it. They all should have got that. A slow, horrible, painful death. So, his death, he just now sits and he rots in prison. And I hope that every inmate that sees him does to him what he did to those people. Especially those two little girls. And the fact that this happened in Springfield, so close, and I don't trust anything now. Nothing. You may be in a nice small town, but I'm telling you, watch your back. Because these pieces of garbage can come out of nowhere and do anything to you. So, I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's True Crime Podcast episode. I want to do more of these. I've got some more episodes in mind. If you have any ideas, please leave a comment. Let me know who you want to hear about, what case you want to hear about. I'll do all the research and I'll make another episode. Again, the paranormal will still happen. You know, I have a thing for true crime, and I just felt that this case needed to be out there, it needed to be said. So, guys, thank you so much. I love each and every single one of you. And you will hear from me in the next episode. Bye, everyone.